Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. I am your host, Justin Dixon. And today we've got Rob Regan on the podcast. He is with Boyne Capital, which is a lower middle market private equity firm based in Miami. I think you'll get a lot out of this episode. We talk a lot about how Rob's background in the military and then in investment banking and also did a short stint owning and founding a brewing company in Miami. So we talk about how all of that experience really helped him as he's grown into his role as head of business development for Boyne Capital. We also talk a little bit about how AI is impacting and influencing how they're looking at businesses, how they're using AI within their own firm. So very fascinating episode. I think you'll get a lot out of it. So let's get Rob on the pod. Interested in hearing conversations with private equity leaders, CEOs of private equity-backed companies, and startup entrepreneurs where they share their stories about their career journeys, starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, and the important role that having the right talent plays in building a successful business, then you are in the right place. Welcome back to another episode of the Growth Capital Podcast. Here's your host, Justin Dixon. All right, Rob, welcome to the Growth Capital Podcast. Thanks for being on.
Thanks for having.
Yeah, well, let's jump right in. Maybe give the audience, listeners and watchers a little bit of an overview of who you are, where you are, and what you're up to right now.
Sounds great. Thanks. I'm Rob. I work at Boyne Capital, a lower middle market private equity firm here in Miami. I oversee our business development efforts here, working with owners and management teams to understand their goals and really explore how we can support them through a succession, liquidity, or a growth plan.
Awesome. Well, let's talk a little more about kind of the who your target kind of clients are. You mentioned lower middle market. Like, do you and Boyne have any kind of industry focus, geographic focus? Like, what does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, sure. We're really focused coast to coast across the U.S. We'll even look at some deals in Canada and Mexico on occasion, just depending on what's happening. We're typically industry agnostic. We like to say we're way more focused on the dynamics around the management team of the business and some of the other fundamentals, and really less focused on a particular industry. That said, there's certainly some themes that are common, I think, throughout our experience and where we like to partner with businesses. And those themes are around typically service businesses. We call it people, tools, and trucks, or dirty fingernail businesses, anything where someone's turning a wrench or providing a service. We like those a lot. That's kind of in our DNA. But we've done things beyond that too. We've done some healthcare. We've done a little bit of tech. But people-oriented businesses tend to be our specialty.
I was looking at your website before we jumped on. I saw you guys bought like a beverage company earlier this year, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, we partnered with an executive on a business called Blue Monkey. It's a beverage brand business. That's a first for us, but we really like the team and we like the end market. So I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, I saw that. It was just kind of an interesting. I had a previous guest on. Actually, her episode launched today. She started a non-alcoholic beverage company that is focused on using kava. It's like a root that is kind of, I guess, farmed in kind of the Polynesian islands, which I thought was kind of fascinating. So, but that was just kind of an interesting theme that I saw. I guess we're recording this kind of late September 2025. Like, what's the market looking like for you as you look at, these kind of services businesses? Is it I think I was at a conference in January of this year, and everybody that I talked to in the private equity world was very excited about 2025 and how it's going to be this crazy busy private equity year. Everybody's going to be buying, selling, doing all these things. And that has not turned out to be the case. Obviously, we've had tariffs and some other things happen in the world. But what are you seeing? And how has that impacted you and Boyne Capital?
For us, it's funny you say that because every year it seems like people go into the year, they're super optimistic. And they have a projection of how things are going to go, and it doesn't always really line up. But for us, the deal flow has been as busy as ever. We continue to see a lot of opportunities from our relationships with folks. We're very thoughtful and careful about the opportunities we pursue, but we have no shortage at this time of interesting things to invest in. So I've had similar conversations with some of my peers, and they've seen a little bit of a downturn. I can't speak to the broader market because we're so focused on things that fit with us, but we're seeing a lot. There's just so much out there. So we just have to kind of focus in on quality.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know a lot of private equity groups are going after the home and commercial services businesses. It sounds like you guys are kind of that straight down the fairway for you, kind of almost hedging against all the AI stuff, right? Everybody's kind of finding these businesses that you still need a human to turn a wrench, and AI is not going to necessarily disrupt that market anytime soon, especially not until robotics become more widely adopted. What are some of the interesting parts of the home and commercial services businesses that you're seeing? Are there regions that are becoming more interesting or less interesting as you've looked at it? Do you like residential focused companies or more commercial focused, services businesses? Where do you guys land on that?
Both, quite frankly. But to the geography question, I mean, there's certain areas of the country that are growing faster than others, and some places that maybe even shrinking a little bit. But we don't, put too much into that. I mean, we're based in Florida, so naturally we like things that are a little bit closer to home. So we love the Southeast, just the South in general. But I think every region has its own unique characteristics that make it an interesting place to invest. We have a business, commercial re-roofing business, Connecticut and Northeast. I'm very excited about the partnership there. And we have businesses from there to California, over here to Florida. So we'll look everywhere, and we think there's opportunities across the landscape. We like commercial. We like residential. I think you just have to be thoughtful about, or what we think about is where can we be the most value add in a particular business. Each of those end markets have their unique attractive qualities and challenges, and I think given our experience, we're well positioned to be helpful to both.
Yeah. And from a business development perspective, so what's your day-to-day, week-to-week kind of look like? Are you really going out and kind of trying to meet investment bankers and getting deal flow through them? Or are you trying to go direct to the end seller, like the business owner? And if so, how are you, achieving that or balancing that with kind of, banked deals that are coming through bankers or other kind of means?
Yeah, we have to pay attention to all the channels because there's opportunities across that. So we value our relationships with our investment banker and broker network very much. We pay attention to that, but we also do a lot of, because we want to have the credibility and we want to immerse in certain industries, we do a lot of trade shows and direct owner outreach. So we had, and there's other channels as well. So we want to make sure that we're trying to be as thorough as we can, but also managing our limited resources here at Boyne effectively. So we've got myself and a few other dedicated business development deal source professionals. And then really everyone's job at Boyne, whether you're on the deal team, BD team, or otherwise, is responsible for trying to rope in interesting opportunities. So.
Yeah. I know you and I met at least one or two conferences this year. So appreciate coming on the podcast and extending the conversation. How did you get into private equity? Is that something you've always wanted to do? Because obviously you had a long, military career in the Army, and you co-founded a brewery. And so I'm just kind of curious how, I like everybody's kind of origin story of how they kind of got into doing what they're doing, whether it's, starting a business or getting into private equity or whatever. So how did you find your way to Boyne?
I found my way to Boyne through a professional relationship. Early in my career, midpoint in my career, I had worked at an investment bank in the Washington, D.C. area doing sell side and buy side work for largely publicly traded businesses. And that relationship is the direct one that connected me to Boyne many years later. But as you mentioned, I had a whole separate career first in the Army, and then as both a defense contractor and Department of Defense employee for a number of years, both before and after my investment banking experience. And then, Boyne Capital came to me through a relationship, and it took a few years for us to kind of come together, but we've been talking about it for a while, and very happy to be part of this firm. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. It seems like a natural progression for people going from the investment banking side to then flipping over to the private equity side. I guess, was that kind of natural thought process was like, hey, let me, cut my teeth in the investment banking world, and always wanting to go more onto the buy side in the private equity world?
Fair question. I hadn't thought about it quite like that deep. I really, coming out of my military and government work, I just thought finance was super interesting. I kind of landed into a unique role after grad school at that investment bank, thinking that I'd probably just stay there for the rest of my career. But I went into investment banking at probably the worst time, 2007, 2008 timeframe, right before the crash. And so my investment banking career was very short, given the environment and
right.
how deal flow was, which put me back into government work. So I didn't really have a plan to get to the buy side. Again, it was just someone had introduced it to me, but now that I'm in it, I definitely appreciate this side of it a lot.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you think the work that you did in investment banking, albeit, as short as it was, did that prepare you to kind of see the other side of the desk and understand what, sellers are going through? Because obviously now you're the acquirer versus the seller of those businesses.
Certainly some of the fundamental skills, in executing transactions are important, that you get from an investment banking experience. But I think believe it or not, the bigger skill set that I bring to this job probably came from my government work in my military career, which was very relationship focused. I worked first as a military policeman and then in military intelligence for a long time, and to include, international security cooperation and a lot of diplomatic efforts. So those relationship management skills, I think, are far more valuable to me than my investment banking experience.
I know there's a couple of private equity firms. I'm sure there's more that I'm just not aware of, but they almost target people coming out of the military, especially from special forces units, to move into a private equity kind of operator role, because you have to be very relationship driven. You've got to, execute things through and by working with other people, and you typically, have a strategic mind to it. So maybe if you wouldn't mind expanding a little bit on how some of the things that you've learned in the military could then have translated, pretty directly into, being successful in private equity.
A couple of things. I think, one, just general military experience, you get a certain amount of discipline from that. And that's not to say that people who haven't been in the military are not disciplined. That's not it at all. But, when you live it and breathe it, and there's a certain mindset and culture, especially if you're in the special forces, special operations community parts of the military. So that's certainly helpful. But, whether you're in the military or you're doing other heavy relationship management type work, I think the experiences are just as valuable. But yeah, especially in the intelligence community and in diplomacy, when you're working with people and you're trying to align interests and you're trying to make sure that you're creating win-win scenarios for everyone, those are the kind of things that are directly relevant to what I'm doing on day-to-day here at that point.
Yeah. So we got to talk about you starting a brewery or a brewing company. So how did that come about? And you're also, I think, on the board of the Florida Brewers Guild. So how deep into beer are you? And what's your favorite kind of beer? I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. Not so much anymore. Into the beer scene. It was a great chapter in my life. I had a lot of fun. And what I liked about being with the Guild is just working, with all of the industry and business owners in the state of Florida on the brewing scene. It's a very, we compete, but it was very collaborative experience. And so I really, really enjoyed that. And I think that's been helpful as I work with other industries and their trade groups and what I do now in private equity. But it was really kind of an accident. This is early in the craft beer scene, at least for Florida, 2015, 2014 timeframe. There was only one or two craft breweries down here. We were we really at first were going to start a beer bar because we wanted to find a place to drink and we figured we'd just open one.
Yeah.
And then after home brewing with my business partner, we discovered that the beer that he was creating was really, really good. And so it just made sense to pivot from a beer bar to a brewery. And that's how the idea was formed. At that time in unincorporated Miami-Dade County, it was against the law to manufacture malt beverage. So we had to do some, lobbying of the county commission to get the law changed. But once we did that, it kind of gave us that first mover advantage to get open. And it was a really cool spot. A lot of great memories there. But like a lot of things, there comes a time to move on and do something else.
Yeah. So is that brewery still open, or did you end up selling your share? Like what ended up happening?
Yeah, no, great question. So had a couple business partners, and maybe some of your audience who are business owners can appreciate this. There comes a time when business partners have to kind of get all lined up on the vision for the future, and I felt like that wasn't happening with our group. We had different visions of how to move forward. Not that one was better or worse than the other; they were just different. And so once we kind of got to that logjam on a forward path, we figured to go our separate ways. So yeah, I sold my interest to my partners, and they continue to run the business, and I think it's doing pretty well still. Still a pretty cool spot. And then I came over here.
Nice. Do you go back and visit them and get free beer, or do they charge you full rate if you stop in?
I don't drink that much beer these days, to be honest with you. I mean, I enjoy it, but as I get older and a little bit more focused on trying to stay in shape, not so much. But
yeah, drinking beer all the time is maybe not the best unless you're working out in equal proportion or more proportion than the amount of beer you consume. So totally fair. Back to kind of the private equity world. Obviously, you're talking to a lot of investment bankers, other channel partners, but also direct to the sellers, right? And so, are like, what are some of the sellers like key things that they are concerned about, maybe outside of price, when looking at and evaluating who they're going to sell their business to, right? Because there are, thousands of private equity companies in the US that, you're obviously not competing with every single one of them, but, you're not the only, person or company that's going after the same businesses. So how do you and Boyne kind of try to differentiate yourself outside of maybe outpaying or whatever, but like, how do you think about that and talk to a seller about, hey, here's why being part of our, ecosystem is maybe better or different than, another company?
Yeah. Super fair question. If the way I think about it and the way I approach it is I want to connect with business owners where we can be uniquely helpful. And the only way you can figure that out is just by talking and sharing your stories and sharing what they're looking to do. And, there's a lot of really great, interesting businesses out there that aren't a fit for what Boyne's trying to do, quite frankly. Yeah. And I've always endeavored to be an honest broker in that sense, or to try to advise folks on, hey, this is what I think is best for your business. Sometimes it's not to partner with Boyne or partner with any private equity firm. Maybe it's to do something completely different. So for me, it's all about making a connection with management teams and business owners, getting to know their business, and then, telling them, what I think is in their best interest. And because if it's not in their best interest, it's not going to work with us, even no matter how interesting or attractive of an asset it might be. So that's the approach we take. We're going to do however many deals we're going to do every year. Yep. And we want to pick the best ones that are the best fit for us. But I think it helps us build a reputation of, hey, we're not just selling Boyne. We're trying to make quality fit with other folks. And so, they know business owners as well. And I think they appreciate that honesty from us. And, hopefully that karma pays it forward at some point.
Yeah. And then I guess from a Boyne support capacity perspective, like what is your kind of process post acquisition? Some private equity groups, I know 95% of the businesses that they buy, they're replacing the CEO either immediately or the founder either immediately or, within that first year. And some of them are upfront with that information. Some of them aren't. sometimes people think private equity is just going to come in and rip the soul out of a company and, fire all the people and all that stuff. But like how do you, when you have a seller who maybe built the business, right? Especially in home services, right? This is probably their baby. They probably have friends and potentially actual family as part of the company. And so I'm guessing that they're probably fearful when it comes to like, hey, I want to sell this business, but they're also thinking, what's going to happen to my people? All that fun stuff. Like, how do you support the company post acquisition other than just giving them a bunch of money and saying, hey, grow 10x?
Yeah. I think for us, and I'll tell you specifically how Boyne works with businesses pre and post close, but just to kind of lay the groundwork for that a little bit. We approach every opportunity through the lens of first, maybe there's an education piece to the management team and the sellers, because we've heard the stories that you just mentioned too, some of the negative stories where a private equity firm has ripped the soul, to use your words, out of a business. And so one, it's the education piece. This is how private equity works in general. This is how we think about partnering. Couple of things up front, Boyne, almost exclusively, 99.9% of the time, we're going to be investing in a business that's family owned or founder owned. So the dynamics are already kind of shaped up there of, hey, this is the first time that outside capital is coming into this business. So we want to be sensitive to that. And quite frankly, that's where we think we can be the most helpful and create the most value for them and their employees and everyone in kind of the ecosystem of the business. The way we think about it, so as we're looking at opportunities that where we can be most helpful are businesses that aren't looking to retire, cash out, exit the business right away. We really want those situations where there's a management team in place that it's not that they need to sell necessarily, but they just need a growth partner like us, someone who can come in, recapitalize the business, certainly make sure we get some liquidity to the current ownership group that, has built a business and wants to kind of take some chips off the table, to use the cliche. And then going forward, the idea is we want to be collaborative. We don't want to be overbearing. We're really proud of our founder-friendly private equity firm designation that we've received for several years in a row. And that comes from, being a partner, not micromanaging the business, giving them the tools and resources they need to grow, while also helping them stay true to what the business was when they started.
And what are some maybe things that you see 6 months, a year into the acquisition or post-acquisition that because obviously it sounds like you try to keep the founder and at least some of the management team, right? You're not going to go in there and rip and replace. You may fill a hole that's already there, but you're not going to necessarily want to clean house like some other groups do, right? Sure. So maybe like what's the next level of service that, or what's the next ask that you tend to get from your portfolio companies that are like, hey, we're growing, but maybe we're not growing fast enough. We need introductions to this, or we need help with technology, or we need, we want to open another location. Like what are some of the things that you see on a maybe somewhat recurring basis that you're going to have to provide support, whether that's additional people or introductions? Like how does that tend to work, and what do you see?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think oftentimes businesses in that lower middle market, that one of their biggest weaknesses, for lack of a better term, or where they can use the most help is on growing the team. So that's where folks like you are great partners to us, right? Who can help build out a management team. It's not that we want to replace anybody as much as we want to add human capital talent to the team. So that's certainly one of the first things that we'll look at. But we do a pretty comprehensive top to bottom, plan, even pre-close as we're approaching the closing date, alongside the management team, and kind of prioritize, what needs to be done to help grow the business. But oftentimes it is adding to the management team and making sure they have sufficient bandwidth. A lot of times these businesses are running lean. Like you said, maybe they have some family members in there. Maybe some of those family members kind of don't want to be in there, or maybe they never really were the right fit in the first place. But we let them decide that. We're there to help them figure that out and right size the team, make sure the right folks are in the right seat. And then after that, it's just about, managing growth initiatives.
And I should have clarified or asked this earlier. Do you guys typically take a majority stake in these businesses, a controlling interest, or are you also doing minority deals?
We are doing majority deals, overwhelming majority of the time.
Got it.
We've done a couple of minority deals, and I think in special circumstances we'd be open to it. But our strong preference and where we've had the most success is as majority partners.
Makes sense. What do you think of, I guess, the whole world of AI? We've got to kind of talk about it. I know you're in the home and commercial services and some other kind of more not pure tech plays, but are you seeing two things? One, are you seeing AI being part of the conversations with sellers, whether they're trying to implement it, they're trying to use it, and then maybe two, are you and Boyne kind of using any interesting AI solutions to help you do your job better, analyze deals faster, et cetera, et cetera? I figured we should talk about AI because everybody else is.
Yeah, no, I mean, AI and the rapid pace at which it evolves has certainly, I think, had every business owner, ourselves included, to kind of take a look at your processes and see where AI can be value add. We certainly have incorporated some tools here just to be a little bit more efficient on how we manage our internal processes. When it comes to, looking at investment opportunities, I mean, I think one of the things that we look at, not just AI as a tool to help the business grow, but, is AI a threat to the business in some way too? So there, we've certainly seen a couple of businesses that come across the market that, AI is probably going to put out of business, just in future. And so we have to be thoughtful about that. But no, we've incorporated AI into our practices, and we think about how we can spread it across the portfolio as well. And it's really case by case on what makes sense.
Yeah, I've talked to a few private equity groups that they've, just in the last year, they've almost created almost like AI czars or AI like working committees to essentially, most of these are focused on like tech or SaaS companies. And so they're like effectively in the private equity group, they're creating a team that is trying to figure out how to leverage AI in all of their portfolio companies and then supporting their portfolio companies on whether it's adding it to their internal processes or adding it to their products to make their products, more sticky, et cetera, et cetera. Have you guys taken it to that level where, somebody or some buddies in Boyne are actually kind of leading the charge on, okay, looking at your portfolio companies and saying, okay, to your point, this company that we already own, AI is threatening it, right? In the future, maybe it's going to become less interesting or less or obsolete. And also looking at it, how can you use or leverage AI within the portcos?
Yeah, within both is the short answer. So we do have a designated person and a couple of assistants here at Boyne who are kind of charged with, hey, how can we incorporate AI into what we do at Boyne? And then across the portfolio, that's something, going back to what we said about being collaborative, I mean, it's something that we want to encourage the management teams to do, but really leaving it to them to figure out how to best manage it within their portfolio company.
Got it. As we kind of round out the conversation here, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if we jumped on a podcast 12 months from now, like what's one or two things that you or you and Boyne are kind of really trying to achieve, in the next kind of 12 months?
Wow. 12 months from now, let's see, fall 2026. I think part of Boyne's success, and our founder, Derek, mentions this all the time, is around the fact that we stick to the knitting. We stay disciplined on our core business model, try not to get distracted by other things. And so I think just doing what we're doing now, and just keep repeating it successfully is probably a little bit of maybe a dodge in the question, but I think, we've grown a lot. So I think we'll probably continue to grow a little bit. A year from now, hopefully we'll have, closed 4 or 5 more platforms. Hopefully have had a couple of exits. We have, the way we think about our exits is we don't have any kind of artificial timeline or horizon. We make sure that we only exit a business when we've accomplished the goals that we set together with the management team. So we don't stress about it too much, and our investors are patient as well and give us that flexibility. But yeah, definitely, just close deals, and just keep having fun. Here at Boyne, we've got a great team, an amazing culture. I don't ever want to work anywhere else again. And so, yeah, just keep doing what we're doing.
Well, speaking of fun, what do you think? What's more fun, working in private equity or running a brewing company?
It
might be age dependent, maybe, I don't know, but
it's certainly age dependent and family dependent too.
Yeah.
I love my job here at Boyne, and I tell people part of the reason I love it and is because it's hard. It's really challenging to be successful. And to me, that's what makes it fun. I think it's fun to do things that are hard. The brewery was a different kind of fun, also a different kind of challenge.
Yeah.
But I like where I'm at right now. Yeah, this is a good life. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, fair enough. We'll end the episode the same way I end every episode with a 3-pack of questions here. So, what's a book or podcast that you found influential that you may recommend to the audience?
Oh, well, on the podcast side, I'm absolutely addicted to a podcast called The Rest is History.
Okay.
A couple of British historians who've been putting it out for a few years. That I listen to it every day, and it absolutely influences everything I do in an odd kind of way.
Interesting.
And then on the book side, I do a lot of philosophical reading. I'm kind of in a trend right now. I'm reading a book called I think Future Men. It's kind of a book about raising boys. I've got a son, and another one called Rediscovering the Saints, which is a book about Catholic saints. So,
got it. Interesting. Well, I'm gonna definitely have to check out the history podcast. I'm not necessarily a history buff, but I'm always open to listening to British people talk pretty much about anything. So the fact that it's a couple of Brits,
they do a lot of U.S. history as well. So, and it's very entertaining delivery, I think is what makes it most enjoyable.
Very cool. Awesome. All right. Second question here. What's your favorite thing to do outside of work now that you're done with the brewery and all that? And you got a son, so there's something kid sports related, I'm guessing.
Yeah, no, 100% it's spending time with my wife and kids in some capacity. Whatever it is we're doing, when we're doing something together, then that's good time spent.
Cool. Well, that dovetails into the last question quite nicely. I'm assuming your favorite vacation spot is probably something, where you and your family can go relax, but you also live in kind of most people's vacation spots in Miami. So do you guys go up north and go to Canada and go cold or or what?
Yeah. So every summer we pick the most northern state we can and just kind of hopscotch each summer to someplace different. We're just working our way from Maine across the top of the U.S. I think our favorite so far has been Idaho.
Interesting.
Which is fantastic in the summer, especially northern Idaho, Coeur d'Alene area. But my wife and I honeymooned in Slovenia, and I think that was probably one of our favorite vacations by a long shot. Slovenia, it's amazing. Can't recommend it enough.
Fascinating. I've not had that as a recommendation on the podcast. So Slovenia has their first check mark on the podcast. So that's interesting. Very cool. Rob, man, it's been cool to get to know you a little bit more and share your story. So I appreciate that. If people want to reach out and learn more about what you're doing, learn more about Boyne, maybe pick your brain about brewing and all that fun stuff, like what's the best way to connect with you?
LinkedIn's always good. And then just you can reach me through the webpage too, boynecapital.com. But LinkedIn's a great place to start. And I'm happy to make myself available to anyone for any reason. Always happy to share information or take a call and see if there's a way we can help each other out.
Awesome. Well, Rob, man, good to see you again. Thank you for being a guest on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Same. Thanks for having me.
I hope you found at least one actionable insight from this episode of the Growth Capital Podcast, your one-stop shop for insights from private equity leaders, CEOs, and startup entrepreneurs on starting, investing in, and scaling successful businesses, as well as the role having the right talent plays in growing a successful business. It would be greatly appreciated if you would rate and review this podcast. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and drop us a comment so we can expand the audience of this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and don't forget about upcoming episodes dropping every Tuesday.